for the current video, I would like to talk about GUI design right away. Okay, so let me go under resource res and go under layout. Okay, and then you can simply double click on the activity underscore main.xml. That's what I want you to do. Okay, and I can first of all minimize my project over here. You can see currently you can see the tab over here is the project, right? If you click on that, it's going to show it. If you click on that again, he's going to hide it, right? You can see the project tab over here. All right, and now we are seeing this particular main activity.java over here. The activity underscore main.xml. So this will be your source file for GUI design. By default, you will see both the design and also the blueprint, but we don't need both. We just need one. So you can simply just go to this icon over here. You can see my mouse, okay, the cursor over here. You can see that one, select design service, right? Click on that, and then you want to choose just the design rather than the current one, design plus blueprint. That's the default. We just need a design, okay? Choose that. And then you can click on the plus over here to make it a little bit more zoom in if you wish, okay? Or you can simply just make it like that. It's completely up to you. I'll just make it like that, okay? And then I'm now just going to speak about the design for my GUI, and then I'll come back. But you can see that there is something called Palette over here. So that one there is really about the various GUI components you can actually use to really drag and drop into your design over here. We are not going to use all the GUI components for this tutorial. It will take about 10 hours to do so, but we only got 2 hours maximum. So I'm only going to show you several common GUI components that would be sufficient for your labs. Okay, but I'm going to talk about it in just a moment. All right. And another thing to say. This is the graphical user interface design panel. You can just drag and drop components as we'll see, but you can see this part over here. You can see code, split, and also design, right? So you can switch between these views as you wish. Currently simply showing the design. If you go to the code, it's going to show the source XML. You can think about the XML and also the design GUI. They are somehow interchangeable to each other from the Android Studio point of view. So sometimes it might be easier for you to modify just the design. Sometimes it might be easier for you to modify the code. But if you modify either one, the other one is going to be synchronized automatically. So, but most of the time, we'll only modify the design over here. Most of the time, okay? If there's any exceptional scenario, I will show it to you, okay? And if you like, you can also put on split over here. The split is actually going to show to you. You can see both the GUI design over here and also the XML over here, right? Either way. But for now, let me focus on just the design over here, okay? Hopefully, so far, so good. And let me now switch to iPad, and I'll speak about the GUI components and the design for our GUI design for the first app for the greeting message, okay? So there will be 4 GUI components we would like to talk about, okay? So let me enumerate them first of all, and then we'll talk about their functionalities, and then we'll talk about how we can sketch the design manually on the paper, and we're going to talk about the greeting app design. So we got text view, we got plain text, we got spinner, we got button. Okay, so these are the 4 GUI components we're going to do. So for radio button, for any other more fancy GUI components, you can explore that yourself. It's beyond the scope for this course. We want to mainly focus on OOP for this course in Java. However, showing Android Studio is just one useful application. It should not be the focus for this course. Let me make it clear. But at least we show you some basic ones. Okay, let me talk about the principle. Between these 2 components, these 4 components over here. You can think about basically all these over here, these 2, plain text and also the spinner. So these are for user to inputs. Okay, for example, the plain text would just be like a text field over here, and the user can simply type, various input over here. So that will be the plain text, like a text field. And for the containers, it's going to be a drop-down menu box, for example, right? So it's going to be something like this. Maybe you will got maybe option number 1. And also, if you click on that, it's going to show you option 1, option 2, option 3, and etc. You can simply choose one of them, and it's going to be selected for the GUI, right? So these are the two ways for us to do inputs to interact with the user. What about output? Okay, so for the outputs, it will be we simply use a text view over here. So output is exactly over here. So this is for displaying outputs. So for displaying output to the user on the mobile screen. Okay, and then finally, you might be wondering about what is this? The buttons. The buttons over here is actually more like a trigger. Okay, button is more like a trigger for computation. Okay, we'll see exactly. For example, in the case of greeting message, as soon as you click on the button, it's going to display maybe some greeting message on the screen, depending on what input you have entered on the mobile screen, right? Let me make some analogy very quickly, so you can draw some connection from what you learned before. You can think about this part over here, displaying over here. It is a little bit like a system.out.println line, a little bit similar to. It's a little bit like system.out.println. Okay, analogous to when you build a console application, how you actually print something to the console. But now we are trying to display something to the mobile device screen. And in a similar way, user inputs over here is similar to scanner. Okay, remember as for scanner, you actually got, for example, next int, next line. Especially next line, right? That's how you read a string value from the keyboard, right? So that will be the analogy I would like to make. All right, so now we got all these 4 GUI components over here handy. So let's see how we can make it, how we can sketch a design. I already have some design in my mind, so if you don't mind, simply follow mine. But you can feel free. It's a tutorial example, so you can feel free to modify it if you wish. Okay. Let's say for our greeting app, so let's say we want to do the following, right? Let me write it down over here. So what we want to do is, we want to, first of all, we want to say, we want to the user to really enter their name. So we want to say, just indicate to them, we want to take their name. And then, so this part over here is going to allow them to enter something for their name. And also, we want them to specify their title. Let's say either Mr. or Miss, depending on their gender, so they can choose, right? So here, it would be the title for the person. And for this one, we can use a drop-down menu box for them. Okay, over here, you can say by default, it's going to be maybe Miss, if there's a female, or it can be Mr. It can be another choice. That'll be for male, right? And then after this, we're also going to have maybe a button at the button around over here. Okay, and then over here we can simply something for the user to click. So here we can say greetings. Okay, if the user, imagine that if the user click on that, some output message is going to be displayed on the screen of the mobile device, right? For example, if I say Jackie over here, and then if I choose maybe Mr., for example, and then what's going to happen is the output will be, let's say hello, let's say Mr. Jackie, right? So that's my conceptual design, and I need to translate this design into the GUI design in Android Studio, and then I'm going to also set up the programming steps to really make sure everything works. That's something I will show to you, don't worry. All right, so that's about our design for the first app over here. Pretty simple, and then I'm going to implement it in Android Studio, right? Let's switch back. Okay, at the same time, let me also put my project folder over here back elsewhere. Okay, so I just a little bit cleaner. All right, let's see what we can do. First of all, I'm going to delete whatever that's default over here, the hello world, right? If you can click on that, and you can simply say delete. We don't need this. Okay, it's just empty, blank. Okay, very nice. Okay, let's now do the first one. We want to have a name, so that will be a text view, right? Oh, you know what? Oh, one thing I forgot. Okay, let me just get it clear to you. For display, we're going to use the text view. And the text view is going to be the name over here, and also the title over here, and also the final output over here. So that's going to be the text view. Okay, just keep that in mind. And then for taking the inputs, for example, the user can enter something by typing. So this will be this part over here. And another one will be the spinner. And the spinner is going to be this guy over here, right? And finally, we also got some button click. And that will be blue. Let's say button over here. And then the button will be say greetings. Okay, like that. So that will be my GUI design. I forgot to highlight it. Okay. Let's now go back here. And then let's now, first of all, put a text view for the name. You can just go to comment over here. We can simply go to text and go to text view. Either way is fine. I would like you to maybe click on that and then drag it to over here, right? You can see, click. Okay, let me do it again. Click on that, hold it, and drag to the blank space over here for your GUI design. Okay, just put it here. So once you have done that, so you got to be careful, right? You can see there should be something called attributes over here. If you don't see it, okay, you should see attributes over here, right? If you click on that, you'll see attributes. So if you click on this particular GUI components, you will see the attributes for that. Okay, let's now just make sure we fix the layout properly, right? So because this will be the top components for our GUI. So you want to, first of all, you can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the 4 connection points. You want to connect them to the border over here. So let's say over here. So this will be 1 to the border over here, and then 1 to the border over here. Okay. And then that could be enough, and then we want to put some margin over here. Let's say from the top, you can see these two have been set already, but let's put some margin over here. Let's say maybe 50, okay? And then you can play with it about what might look the best for you. But let me just put some example. Let me just put 20 over here. Okay, you can see now the text view is actually nicely situated over here, right? But later on, once we add in more GUI components, we're going to fix the layout as well. But I'll just give you some example. All right, so now the text view, let's fix something else. So now for the ID. So ID is really important over here. So ID is mainly for controller, which will be the main activity.java over here. So later on, when we want to make some connection between the controller, main activity, and also the GUI. So the ID will be a very important source for us to identify, right? So for now, I'm just going to identify it just by defining some ID. And we can follow the following convention. Every time when you got maybe some display, we can say label. So we can say label over here as a prefix. So label, and then it's going to be the name, right? So we're going to display the name, just a string, literally. And then you can see under the attributes for this text view, you can see the text over here, right? Oh, by the way, so as soon as, let me do it again. So as soon as you say label name, it's going to ask you to really apply the changes to the whole project, right? So you will simply say refactor. That's what you will have to say, okay, before you do anything else. Basically, every time if you modify the ID, let me show you another time. If I change this to be name 2 and then click on enter, it's going to ask me to refactor again, right? So every time you change the ID, the impact will be global throughout the project, right? Let me now change back to name, enter, and then I want to keep the label name, right? Hopefully you see my point here. And then for the text over here, I just want it to be name, enter. And maybe I just want it to be name colon. Okay, that's what I need. You can see so far that's what I got, right? And let's now introduce another one. Another one will be title. You know what? Let me do the first row. Let me do another one, which will be for the user to actually take their name, the string. So that one will be under text and also plain text. I'll drag it and drop it over here, right? That's around here. And now be very important for you. You want to hold the left connection point over here, connected to the name label box right over here, right? You can see this point over here has been connected already. So now I'm going to put maybe the gap should be maybe 20 over here. Okay, see, there's always a gap. So you want to connect, and also let me click on that again. You want to make sure you connect and also give a gap, right? And then I can also try to connect this all the way to the right border over here. Okay, and then I can also fix yes, 20 is okay. And then I can also connect this all the way to the top border over here, and then I can give some also some gap over here. I can say maybe 40, and then enter. Okay, you can see this part here, this is 40, and what about this? This is 50. I think if you try to see, you can see this part over here seems to be slightly lower than this, right? So it's kind of up to you. I can leave it just like that, right? If you want to adjust it, it's completely up to you, right? It's more like artistic design, which really hard to make a judgment, right? As long as it's not too ugly, then we are fine. Okay, so that's about our first one. That's a name, and we want to go back to click on this GUI components here, and for the ID, right? We want to give some unique ID. I will show you exactly how you can use the ID when we talk about the controller. But now for the ID, let's now call that because this will be for me to enter some input. So I will always have the input prefix. Let me say input and then name. Okay, enter, and then I need to update this to, globally. So that's why I gotta say refactor. All right, and then what about, should I display any default text over here? I would say just make it blank, just make it clean, and enter. All right, that's what we got so far. Hopefully you're following. And remind you about our design. So what we have done so far was name and also Jackie. Since I'm trying to talk while I'm trying to do it, so I might be quite slow, but if you do it later, you'll be much faster. So this will be our first row. Let's now do the second row. We want to introduce, we want to do a title and also introduce this spinner over here, right? Let's now do it. So now let's go back here. I can now move a little bit faster for the second row. So let's now go under text, go to text view, drag it and drop it over here. Okay, first of all, I'm going to a top connection point to the bottom connection point over here. And then you can see over here, we're going to make some gap. What about 50? Over here. Okay, you can see there's a gap over here. And for this particular text view, click on that. What should be the ID? So it should be a label, right? I'm following the same prefix. And maybe label title, right? It's going to be either Mr. or Miss. What about, and then hit enter. And then say refactor to publish the changes globally. And now for the text over here, what should it be? Well, it will be title and colon, enter. Okay, so far so good. And then we're going to have a spinner over here, right? So why don't we go to containers over here and then go to spinner, right? So that's just another, the second way, the other way for you to take an input. That's the only two ways. Either you can use a text fill, or you can use a spinner for the purpose of this course. Drag it and drop it over here. Okay, I guess we can move its left point and connect to maybe here. Is it possible to make, yes, yeah, you can see the left has been connected, and now let's make some gap over here. What about 20, I wonder? If I say 20 over here, maybe I should make it more, I guess. Maybe 50. Maybe even more. Just make it a little bit, not too tight. How about just 70 over here? Okay, like that, right? You can see the left point over here is connected to this title over here, right? And then I can now also connect its top point to over here. And then, actually, let me do it again. And then you can see we should fill in some gap over here. Maybe 40. It might be a little bit too down over here. So why don't we click on that and also say maybe 30 over here. So I think that's a little bit better, right? You can see it's a tedious process, but you should really do it, right? And then for the right connection point, what we should do is we should really click on that and make sure it's make sure it's connected to the border. Okay, you want to click on that and go to the border, right? You can see now it's now connected, but now let's say 40 over here. Maybe 10. All right. Well, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's our spinner, and then it's a very important, whenever you do a spinner, you have to introduce some options. In this case, Mr. and also Miss, right? So what we should do now is, first of all, click on this, right? So now the ID is simply spinner, right? You can, I would say, let's use options, because spinner is really meant for you to provide the user with options. So let's say options over here as a prefix, and now options for titles. Okay, that's what I would do. And then if I hit on enter over here, I'm gonna refactor, right? Always. Whenever you introduce the ID, change the ID, you always have to refactor first before you do anything else. There's one important setup for the spinner, which I'll do right away. Okay, let me now go. If you click, so now spinner has been here, but we want to introduce the options. You can think about this important step is these two options, Mr. and Miss, are considered as an array of strings, and we want to specify this string in the project, right? And then we can connect this array of string into the spinner. That's basically what we should do. Let's go back to the project over here, and then I want you to go under values. Remember, I mentioned the string.xml may have to be useful sometimes, right? If you click on the strings over here, the XML, right? Here, the greeting is basically the name of the app. So I will show you how you can modify this later, but for now, we'll stay the same. Okay. So now simply click on enter over here. So if you simply type less than, you can see the auto completion for Android Studio. It shows you many options over here, but we just need string array. Click on that. And then what should be the name for the string array? Let's say titles. Okay, the titles. And then greater than, you can see it completes the string array for you. Hit enter over here. You can see this will be the starting tag for titles. This will be the ending tag for titles. We wouldn't really discuss the XML structure a lot, but this might be the very few occasions that you have to modify XML. So hopefully you can just follow. All right. And after this, if you say less than again, the only applicable completion will be item. That's all we need. Okay, greater than, right? You can see this will be the opening. This will be the closing. All right, and inside we're going to put the options. And let's say the option we would like to get will be Mr. over here, and also let me copy this and also Miss. Okay, so these are the two options for us, right? Everything compiled. You can see there's no red cross over here. By the way, for the Mr. and Miss, you don't need to put it in double quote. You can simply put Mr. and Miss just like that, right? Okay, after this, we're going back to the activity.xml, right? Go back there. And now, let me also minimize the project by clicking on that, okay? If I click on the GUI components over here for the spinner, and if you simply just scroll down over here, or actually, you know what? Do the following. You can see attributes over here. There's a search spotlight, search bar, search. And click on that, and then type entries. All right, entry is what we need. And if you click on that, over here, you can see, remember the array name, we say titles, right? You can see array and also titles. That's the one we just declared, right? Let me remind you again, titles is the string array that we declare over here, matching this name. If you want to declare spinner yourself, that's how you do it. Let me go back here, and then entries. Okay, entry and titles, right? All right, that's good. And that's our spinner over here. Okay, we are now done with the second row. Okay, second row is now done. And then we're now going to put this text label over here. So let's go back here. And then we're going to say text label. Go back to the text and go to text view. And then drag and drop over here. Okay, like here. And then I will just connect one to here and one to the right over here. And then click on that. And then if you go to, I'm going to click on cancel over here, right? So I can see all the attributes. For the ID over here, I'm just going to say label output. Okay. And then enter. And then refactor over here. And then I'm going to, should I display any text? I would say no. Okay. We're going to let whatever greeting message that's going to be displayed later. Okay. I'll just say that. All right, that's good. So there's a GUI components over here. Looks like invisible, but it will display some message later. It will. Okay, and then let's now do the final part. You can see the final part will be the button for us to click. Say greetings over here. All right, let's go back to the GUI design. Let's go under buttons and choose button over here. And then you're gonna put it over here. Okay, you may connect these two, right? You can see the top connect to the button over here, and then the gap, let's say 60 over here. All right, and for the button here, you can connect to the left and connect to the right. Oh, sorry, connect to the right. You can see the connection point. Okay, you just got practice over here. Okay, and then you can adjust the size if you wish, but I'm gonna leave it like that. That's good enough. Okay, actually, you know what? For this part over here, I might also need this top here to this button here, right? And then for my text view over here, I can put some margin over here from the top, right? You just gotta play with it, basically, right? I just give you one example. It's definitely time consuming, but if you want to develop a mobile app, you gotta play with some fancy layout. But for me, it's not fancy even, but it still takes time. Okay, the button here. What should we do for the button here? You can see for the ID, we can simply say button. That's good, and then we can say send, say greetings. Just give some name. Okay, ID, and then enter and say refactor over here. Okay, and then for the text over here, we're going to display. Let's say say greetings. Enter. So now we are done with the GUI design. You can see we got all the components for you. You can review it. We got text view, plain text field, and also we got spinner for drop-down menu, and also we got some invisible ones for displaying output, and also we got say greetings over here, right? Before I end the current video, I would like to try it out. Okay, even before we put anything useful, this only the facial design for your GUI app, but no logic has been programmed just yet, but we will do in the next video. Now, what I would like you to do is you're going to see the play button here, right? You can say run app. However, something for you to explore. You will see some default mobile device for you to simulate. It's called the emulator. If you go to AVD manager over here, you can actually you can say create virtual device, and then you can choose the model you wish. But I would say any model will be fine as long as you can see the effects. Since now we are running this course online, so we won't be able to show you on the physical device in the lab. However, using an emulator should be good enough, right? If you're interested in connecting this to a physical device, you can speak to me. Otherwise, it's beyond the scope for this course. We just want to see some mobile app on the emulator. All right, so now I choose a Nexus 7, for example, and then I'll simply say play, which will run the app. If I click on that, it's going to start up some Nexus 7 emulator over here. All right, you can see this is basically my mobile app, right? You can see like this. However, you can see the title. You can see we got the name. We got some, for example, if I say Jackie over here, right? I can type. And also, if I say greetings, if I click on the button, nothing happened. Simply nothing, right? Simply because no useful logic has been programmed just yet, which we will do in the next video. However, there's only one thing I would like to see if I can fix quickly. You can see the title and the drop-down menu over here. You can see you got Mr. and Mrs., right? Mr. and Miss. So that's basically the spinner that we programmed. I would like to introduce some gap. Let's see if we can do it. Okay, let me put this as leave it there. Let me just go back to the GUI design. If I click on this, right, can I simply introduce a bit more gap over here? If I say 30 over here, enter. It doesn't seem to work. Is it possible to actually, you know what? Let's say this. What if I simply just put this back to 0 on the right? Oh, really? Oh, that's how I do it. There we go. All right, that's how I make it smaller. There we go. You can see there is the underneath the connection point. You can see the L shape. Hopefully you can see that, right? So that's how you actually adjust the length or the height over here. It's up to you. Okay, that should be good enough. All right, so now I apply some changes to the design. I do not need to just say stop. I do not need to. You can say stop and launch again, but you can see there is a button here. It's good for me to show. This is the refresh button with the A. Apply changes and restart activity. I can simply click on that and then go to your emulator over here. You can see that one there. You can see I think the design now is pretty good. You know, we got name, we got title, we got Mr., Mrs., right? I'm just being picky. The title over here doesn't seem to be doing well. You can see for the name, that one got 20, I see. So why don't we try to connect to the border, and then we should say 20 over here. All right. Being picky is nice when you do GUI design. All right, and then I'm gonna say apply changes and restart the activity. All right, let me go back here. All right, I think that's perfect, at least for now. You can see we got name, we got title, we got drop down menu, and then if I type, for example, maybe let's say I can simply type another name, Hyun, and then I can choose maybe Miss over here. If I say greetings, nothing happens. It's simply because no logic has been programmed yet. All right, guys, I hope so far you're feeling comfortable about the GUI design. That's something you should really play with. It's not to do with your OOP ability, but just about artistic design. But you need to do it if you want to develop app. All right. In the next video, we'll see how to make this app works by touching the controller.